Being, can you explain the White House's evolution from this is not a negotiation on tariffs to countries should pitch us and start negotiations on tariffs?
Sure. As the president said yesterday, Jasmine, both things can be true at the same time. And it is a non-negotiable position that the United States has faced a national security and economic crisis because of the unfair trade practices by countries around the world.
Follow-up, there's been some public sparring between Elon Musk and the president's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, on some of these tariffs. Musk actually referred to Navarro today as being, quote, dumber than a sack of bricks. Are you at all, or is the administration, the president, at all concerned that this is maybe impacting the public's understanding of these tariffs? It might be messing with the message on it?
No, look, these are obviously two individuals who have very different views on trade and on tariffs. Boys will be boys, and we will let their public sparring continue. And you guys should all be very grateful that we have the most transparent administration in history. And I think it also speaks to the president.
It was the day when Donald Trump's press secretary quite literally lost her composure in front of the entire country. Before hundreds of cameras, flashes, aggressive questions, and an escalating crisis in the White House, Karoline Leavitt held one of the most heated briefings in recent months. Everything started as usual: pompous statements, praise for the president, and tough rhetoric on tariffs. But the situation quickly spiraled out of control. What happened at that briefing was no longer just a mistake. It was a symptom of deeper instability within the Trump administration. Let's begin with the most painful issue, the tariff war. Karoline Leavitt's words sounded like a propaganda manifesto. America does not need other countries, but other countries need America. But then the contradictions began. She simultaneously claimed that tariffs were a non-negotiable necessity, and at the same time spoke about a willingness to negotiate. How is that possible? How can tariffs be considered the only solution and yet be described as a subject for negotiation? Reporters noticed this too and asked a very logical question. What is the actual position of the White House? And that's when it started. Leavitt, visibly irritated, stopped answering and started attacking. She said the administration was acting within a comprehensive economic framework. But what kind of framework is it if the same person says, "We will never give up tariffs and we are ready to discuss them"? Simple logic breaks down here. And these are not just words. Goldman Sachs recently stated that the probability of a recession in the United States within the next 12 months is now 45%. That's an increase from previous estimates. And here arises the main question. If even the largest financial institutions are sounding the alarm, why does the White House continue to pretend that everything is fine? Karoline Leavitt couldn't answer that. She started dodging the question, talking about future tax relief, about lower egg and gas prices. But those were just excuses. The facts are stubborn. The cost of living is rising, production is falling, unemployment is increasing, and the administration's economic strategy is nothing more than a set of slogans. But the real explosion came with the discussion of the conflict within Trump's own team. This refers to the public feud between Elon Musk and trade advisor Peter Navarro. Musk called Navarro dumber than a sack of bricks. When asked whether this undermines the public's understanding of the tariff policy, Leavitt replied, "Boys will be boys." Such a statement is not only disrespectful to journalists, it's an attempt to downplay the significance of a deep internal crisis. But even that wasn't the end. Journalists asked about Trump's strange initiative, the deportation of American citizens to El Salvador. Yes, you heard that right. The deportation of U.S. citizens, an idea being discussed by the president. Leavitt confirmed that such an idea is indeed being discussed, and added, "If it's legal, we'll implement it." This is absurd. It's a threat to the very foundation of the rule of law, and perhaps it best illustrates that the current administration is willing to take any steps, even if they directly violate the Constitution. An interesting point, Elon Musk himself, despite his ties to Republican circles, is essentially opposing this tariff policy. Why? Because it hit his capital. In just the past few months, Tesla has lost nearly half of its market value. And that's not speculation. Those are official figures. A drop in sales in Europe, China, North America, protests against Musk, and most importantly, rising prices and declining demand caused specifically by the tariffs. And here it's not just about economics, but politics, about who wants to scare whom. After all, everything Trump does comes down to one thing: using fear as a tool of governance. A moment worth highlighting was the emotional speech by Senator Elizabeth Warren, who absolutely tore into the administration's representative during a hearing. If millions of people lose their jobs because of these tariffs, Will you cancel them? The response was evasive and vague. No one gave a straight answer. Because, apparently, the administration believes even if America collapses, what matters most is that Trump does not back down. But what is especially important in this story is how the administration handles criticism, or more precise, does not handle it. When asked why Trump did not personally attend the farewell ceremony for the fallen service members, Leavitt replied that he had sent his condolences. But instead of paying final respects, the president at that moment was playing golf. And that is the essence of what is happening. A complete lack of accountability, a refusal to admit mistakes, and a desire to suppress any dissent. While Republicans continue to insist that tariffs are the only path forward, the U.S. economy is already on the brink of recession. Moody's estimates potential job losses from Trump's policies at 3.5 million people. And all of this, simply because someone refuses to admit a mistake. You know, this is no longer just an economic misstep. This is a strategic catastrophe. And if Congress truly wants to protect Americans, it's time to act. Elizabeth Warren and Ron Wyden have already introduced a bill to strip the president of the ability to impose tariffs recklessly. While it's not too late, this train heading for disaster can still be stopped. But do the politicians have the courage to do it? Or will they continue to hide behind empty slogans? Share your thoughts.